Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is January 3, 2024. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today with Tony Chauncey. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Oh, you did it perfectly.
Where in the heck are you calling in from?
I am in North Hollywood, California.
How cool is that? First question, Tony, is what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being is to live a long, profitable, happy, successful, glamorous life.
I like that, man. You got good adjectives. What is your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
My favorite form of information, I guess, is watching channels on TV. I'm not a radio listener and I'm not a book reader. Every now and then I read the newspaper, but it's $4 now.
Tell me about it.
But
Okay.
hey, there's this great paper out of Venice that I read all the time with some great writers. Would you know that paper?
I love the Venice Beachhead. Thanks for the plug. That is an amazing paper. It's been around for years too. But it's amazing that you said watch TV because we are on live TV across the world right now. That's what this is, live TV.
Whoa! Hey,
Tony,
did you know I'm a ham? I'm a ham.
I can dig it, man. My wife's a ham, so we got a lot in common. So, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, it makes you live life better. It teaches you things that you may not know, because if you just was isolated, you would be king in your own world, and that's a world nobody may not want to visit.
But do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
That's a good question. I think it's innate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people are born that way. It's natural. I think even animals that don't speak try to get new information, and they learn from the information that they gather.
Dude, you're anticipating a lot of our questions. The next one is, do thoughts create emotions?
Do thoughts create emotions? Yes, I would say so. Without giving it deep thought, I would imagine my quick answer is yes, they do.
Fill in the blank, Tony. I don't know what I think until I
give it time to simmer in my brain and then make a decision on it.
That is beautiful. Can humans think without language?
Can humans think without language? As I said earlier, and you noted, animals have no language, but they think, and we are an animal.
Chauncey says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Yeah, when language breaks down, I guess we use our hands to communicate. Even before there was a specific sign language, I'm quite sure that's how it was used. They use their bodies to communicate, not just the hands. They use their whole bodies, I would imagine.
Yeah, one of my favorite answers was, a guy says, what do you do when communication language breaks down? He says, group hug.
That's a good one.
Isn't that good? That's what you said. Use your body. Group hug.
Right. That's a good one.
Your observations of humans in general, are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
That's a good one. Once again, my quick answer would be we're more thinking, because a lot of humans are very introverted and they don't express themselves a lot. So if that's the case, if we accept that a lot of people are introverted, then what are they doing? They must be thinking.
Yeah. That's heavy because Bridget Bardot said, when I make love, I don't think. I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? But the great George Clinton says, think it ain't illegal yet.
I remember that song. Yes.
These are two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Is thinking a function of the soul? I don't totally understand what he means by that. But once again, I would think, yes, you start thinking even before you communicate. And so that is making you the soul that everyone will eventually get to know. You're thinking before you're expressing. And therefore, what makes you a soul is the question. What makes you the soul is the results of your thoughts.
Dude, you are smart. I love having you here. It feels like we're together in a real situation. Thank you. Because there's a bumper sticker on a car on my street. It says, don't believe everything you think.
Oh, how about re-examine everything you think? How
Hello.
about, yeah.
Well, here's the second Turing question. Can machines think?
Ask the Actors Guild, because they think so. They think they're being replaced. Well, at least they came to a good conclusion. But one of their grievances is machines are going to replace us. They could think.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Um, Happiness.
Yeah. Well, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he says happiness tends to not last, meaning does last or tends to last.
We all know happiness doesn't last. We all know that. So
Yeah.
I would agree with him.
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Well, I would like to answer this way. I read a book by DeRope. You might remember it, in the 70s, called what is it called? Well, anyhow, it's by DeRope, and it's a book about the five consciousnesses.
Yeah.
And in that book, that book changed my life, because I didn't look at things based on one particular consciousness. I hope I'm answering your question, but as a result of that book, I know there's many consciousnesses. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, and I don't want to say that this is this or this is that, because I want to examine all five, given the number in the book of my different consciousness. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's fine. You did. It's more like, but how do you spell the author's name? DeRope, DeRope?
DeRope. Yes, the book came out in the 70s, and it's in my room. It's like my Bible. I'm proud to say that, because it's a book about, the five consciousnesses. And I go to that book when I want to understand life.
Wow. I'm going to look it up. I look forward to seeing it. But it's more like, do you think that consciousness is created by us, or is it there and we're detecting it?
I think it's created by us. I think it's based on what you experience. I believe that none of us is right or wrong, but we are the summation of all the things that we experience. When I see someone who's struggling and I feel for them, I say, well, hey, they just wasn't lucky enough to experience the right situation.
Yeah.
So they are who we are looking at, but they're also, based on their experiences, who they are, good or bad.
Exactly. Beautiful. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Uh, Speed of light, because sometimes when we're halfway up, waking up, I don't think our thoughts are moving too fast.
The
How's
poet,
that for an answer?
that's beautiful, man. This is all good. The poet Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rayner responded, said, "You can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?"
Wow, that's a good one. And, I followed Audre Lorde. Um, I suggest, and I won't say this is a new tool, but I suggest, especially when it comes to, let's say, the master's house, communication, which is something that us humans don't do enough. We form opinions. We're easily brainwashed by situations. But maybe if we took the time to listen while we're talking, and then instead of saying, "Oh, we're right and we got to win this discussion," maybe if we took the time to look at all sides, that form of communication, which is rare, might make this a better world. Once again, I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, you're doing great. That's called suspended judgment. That's what McLuhan preached big time, that don't have a point of view, try to get the big picture,
Mhm.
understand all sides of the story. So what new toy do you suggest?
Oh, let's see. What new toy I suggest? Uh, get off the internet and talk to people in person, so that you could experience their emotions, so that you can experience if you say something nice, they hold or grab your hand, so that you could experience uncontrollable laughter that you will not get on social media, with a few exceptions, like the exception of now.
Ah, no, I'm going to reach out on my camera and touch you, man. Look
There
at
you go. There, there it is.
that. Okay. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
What I worry about when I go to bed at night is, um, as you get older, it comes with the territory. How long do I have? And that's not a bad thing,
Yeah.
because what that could also mean is, hey, stop. Oh, I can't say pussyfooting, can I?
Yeah, you could say anything. We're free
Uh,
here.
well, stop pussyfooting around. Get focused, because you don't know how long you got. So when you get old and you start thinking, well, how much time do I have? That might be the little kick and inspiration you need to stop procrastinating.
Wow, you're my hero, dude. You're saying everything I want to hear. And I love this thing about listening, be focused. McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might be able to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Tony, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Why do we ignore it? Because unfortunately, for every great artist broadcasting stuff to us, we have years of indoctrination. We have years of, I don't know the correct terminology, but our culture influences us. For instance, just a quick example. If you go to Japan, everybody's slurping their soup. But if you do that in America, oh, it's such a bad thing. Well, no, it's not. You're just not in Japan. It's a bad thing because you're in America. But if you were in Japan, it wouldn't be bad. That's just one little example.
Yeah, amazing. Are you more, no, do artists have moral obligation?
That's a great question. That's a whole show because this question has been coming up with all the artists who, oh, I'm not a role model. I'm no. Yes, you are. You are a role model. From the time you put your art out there, you are a role model, whether you think so or not. You can say you're not a role model, and you won't be if you take down your art. If you take down what you created, no, then you're not. You're right. But if you put something out there, from the time you put it out there and someone is seeing it, you are a role model. So the long answer is if you don't want to be a role model because you are, don't create artists.
Really good. You're smart. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I am afraid of old ideas, especially when it comes to what this country is going through, and especially to be very current. Uh, what they call the people, the constitutionalists, who
Yeah.
are saying, "Oh, we're going by the Constitution." And yes, the Constitution was a great form, a great idea, but it is needed to be adjusted. Yes, that's what amendments are for. But amendments are not happening fast enough. It's not happening fast enough for that poor lady in Texas who's going to suffer. It's not happening fast enough for a lot of things.
It's really smart. I agree. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yes, let's think. One of my earliest memories was, let's see, playing with my stuffed animal and going to sleep with it and being happy. One of my other earliest memories with that stuffed animal was Gunsmoke, which was followed by Half Gun Will Travel. Yes, I'm telling my age and I'm proud of it.
Good American TV.
Yes.
Okay, so do you think memory is more a curse or more a blessing?
Memory is a blessing. Wow. When we're sitting there and we're quiet and the world is crazy, thank goodness for memory to take us to that happy place.
Yeah.
Memory allows us to go to that place that the world is trying to take us away from. The world is taking us away from those good memories. Yes, we do have bad memories too, but we're probably conditioned to let them just enter and exit. They're in and out. But the good memories, we just hold on to it and bask in them and smile and all that. Yes. So that's
And
my answer.
tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
Well, I was raised by three ladies, three different floors. If you wanted love, you went to my mother's floor. If you wanted wisdom, you went to my aunt's floor. And if you wanted good food, you went to my grandmother's floor. So those three ladies influenced me. I guess I should learn to cook better. Oh, I guess I wasn't on my grandmother's floor as much. But that is the good, the good things that I remember being raised by three ladies. I would like to say this, and I know I'm expanding your question, but I used to think, wow, I never had a father. And some people had a mother and a father. Oh, I missed something. No, I traded, for lack of a better word, a father for aunt and a grandmother. And I would say to people who are sad about not having a father, there's a lot of single mothers out there, hey, you sometimes get a replacement. And I'm not knocking dads, but you sometimes get a replacement. So no need to complain that you didn't have. And that applies to a lot of things. But be thankful for what you did have. And I know I went beyond your question, but on the first part of your question, what I'm saying is I was so lucky to have three ladies influencing me. And I think some people feel they did a pretty good job.
Well, Tony, I welcome expanding anecdote stories. That was beautiful because Dr. Seuss says the same thing. Don't don't be sad it didn't happen. Be happy what did happen. So you're not
Exactly.
sad you didn't have a dad. You're happy that you had 3 role models to grow up with. Now, outside your immediate family, same question. Who had an impact on you outside?
Sly Stone.
Woo!
Because he told me I could make it if I try. He told me, don't paint the white, don't paint the black, just paint the. He told me so many lyrics, one of which I performed in this nice place called Baroque with these beautiful musicians. I can't wait to remind you of that great performance. But I'm not joking. It sounds like I'm just flipping this off, but no, that was one of my big influences outside. And also, I used to try to dress like him. People called me him. And to actually meet this man, get to know him well, be his videographer, as they called me, is so special because he was an influence. So the question really is how lucky I was to meet one of the people who influenced me.
Yeah. Dig it. You know, Sly said everybody is a star. He was finding value in everyone.
Not only finding value, he showed us. Look at the
Yeah.
band. There was no band that looked like that before him. So your question was who influenced me? You know what seeing that band did for me? It said to me, get out of South Central, get out of Harlem, plug, Harlem church, and go to the village. You think I would have went to the village if I wasn't influenced by that? I'm talking New York. Everybody doesn't know Harlem is one place, the village is the other. But that made me unlimited. And that was the big reason I became the person I am, because I said, hey, you don't need to stay one place. Get out of New York. Go to California. If I wasn't first influenced by someone who said, look, you don't have to be limited. You think I would have jumped up and went to California? No way. But I never thought I would meet him when I got here.
How beautiful, Tony. That is truly a celebration of life you just explained. And it's whenever I watch Sly and listen to his music, that's exactly how I feel. He made us and enabled us to become creative, peaceful, free, and funky.
Yes. And look, he liked his song Fun. You know, Fun was the song. Oh, the title means it must be a fun song. Well, yes, it was. But he named his daughter Fun. That's how much fun he wanted us to have.
Yeah, and you know, the words evoke more than their meaning. Funky is fun is the key. Funky.
Right. Oh, wow. I like that. I like that. I see it's a t-shirt coming. I want to give you your credit. Fun is the key. That's why I'm funky. You should be like me and you will see.
That is beautiful. So did your mom raise your particular religion?
No. We were open. We wasn't very religious, but remember, 3 ladies. So downstairs, grandma said, you going to church. And I went, and that was a good foundation. But like any other foundation, you should also always examine it and make sure, hey, is there another alternative? Let me check out something else. So I started out like most young Black kids in Harlem, going to church. But I said, wait a minute, there's more to life than that. Let's see what the other cultures are doing. My greatest change was taking sociology. Sociology said, wow, look at this. It's about the environment and the culture. What an opening that was for me to learn is not just about one thing. And I know I'm on a theme that I'm repeating a lot, but the theme of not being limited is the thing that I think most defines me in all kinds of ways.
That is good. It's really inspiring. And you're helping me. Do you pray, Tony?
Yes, I do. But I don't go to church.
If God,
and if I do go to church, I go to churches that are non-denominational, and I believe that church is also something that's within you.
Yeah,
And my biggest belief is real simple. Treat people the way you want to be treated. It's
perfect.
not complicated.
Yeah, it's really simple. Be kind. So, if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I would like him to say to me, karma is what I hope everyone realize is one of the most important things you can do while you're here. And if in fact you believe in karma, then you don't have to worry about where you may be going after this. You would lay there in your last days and says, I was good. I was good to people. I deserve wherever I'm going to be a good place because that's what I did with my life.
Can you forget to die?
Can I forget to die? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a question I never thought about. So I don't know the answer to that one.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Evil uses people as a vehicle. You were born as a little baby, and until you were taught evil things, you would be fine. But no, everything that you become, you're taught. If you're taught good, you're good. If you're taught evil, you're evil. And it's difficult to break away from that. I don't care how smart you want to be. Your culture, I mentioned sociology before, your culture has such a tremendous influence on you. Yes, there's people who get away. There's exceptions. But for all those exceptions, unfortunately, the majority of people, I'm going to use the word, victims of their culture, unless they get exposed by
Yeah.
someone about there's other things besides the place you were put in. There's other things besides the people who you have talked to in your immediate family or your friends. There's a big world out here. It's a big world. You're not going to see it all, but see as much of it as you can. You can only say something's good if you experience all the other things. All the stuff about, oh, this is the best, this is the best. But have you tried the other things? How do you know it's the best if you haven't tried the other things?
Yep, that is beautiful. And really, the hidden question, Tony, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
That was out of the four that you mentioned, that was the one that threw me off, and I couldn't get thick into that particular one. I got good answers, I believe, for the other three, but that particular one, try to explain it to me a little differently. Take the gist of what he said.
Yeah, it's Alan Watts. Actually, it's out of context, but I met a skateboarding philosopher in Venice once, and he said the word name, Name, is enemy, enemy. So
Wow.
as soon as you name someone your enemy, then they become your enemy. So if you don't name them your enemy, but that's just one way to approach it. I mean, basically, it's the question is how do you advise? Like, you have a daughter, right?
Yes.
No, if she comes home and says, somebody bullied her or something, how do you advise her to deal with an enemy?
I advise her to learn from the situation. I advise her to not just with me, but discuss it, get different perspectives from it. And I mainly advise her until you have really given it deep thought, avoid the situation. I'm not saying totally avoid it, but give it some thought. Sometimes in a situation like you described, we need to take a quiet moment or a break and then come back to the situation. Even the thought of the situation, come back. But first step back and say, hey, this bothered me. Now let me discuss with myself and others why it bothered me. What's the essence of why I'm bothered? And then I could better deal with it. So I would advise her to step back and do some deep thinking.
It's beautiful. In fact, Nassim Taleb says games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. My friend said villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And Gregory Bateson said if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, I did something morally and socially wrong? So it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
That's a good question. Does punishment work? It all depends on, once again, going back to other things we've talked about, what state of mind, what thought process this person was in before this is late. His life has been formed. What is right and what is wrong has been formed in those early stages, what they call it, the formative years. So by the time he has to confront that question that you asked, more than likely, unless he's very wise, he's already got a preconditioned, pre-programmed answer to that. Somebody who had different formative years would have a different answer based on, how you were raised. Oh no, I don't think that was wrong, because he lived in a situation, an environment where that was not wrong. The person who says, oh yeah, I do have to suffer because I did wrong, they lived in an environment where they were taught, hey, you do something wrong, you're going to pay. Everyone didn't live in an environment where they were told, if you do something wrong, you're going to pay. So the person who doesn't think they should pay, to get back to your question, is not that he's such a bad person. He was never taught that wrong causes problems. And I know I'm repeating some of the themes I've talked about, but
repeating totally fine, Tony. It's totally fine. What you're doing is teaching me and the listeners a lot of good lessons, and that's how you learn, is by repeating sometimes. And each time you don't say it exactly the same, so it's opening it up. It's like opening up. It's like James Brown says, I don't need nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door, I'll get it myself. That is, to me, I put that on a loop in my head, because I think he's saying, I don't need nobody to give me nothing. I'll open up the door and get it myself. But he leaves out that I'll. He just says, open up the door. So he might be implying, well, you open up the door and I'll get it myself. Or he might be implying, I'll open up the door. So he leaves that space open, because to me, James Brown is up there with Sly and writing great lyrics. James said, I've got a move that tells me what to do. I mean, is that as good as Irving Berlin or Cole Porter? That's the greatest. That's Hank Williams. That's the greatest lyricist in America in a lot of ways. Yeah. So anyways, we're going to get into music really fast, but here's James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
I like all those statements. And my response to all those statements, like my response to similar things, is, why can't we do both?
We can. Why can't we be friends? So Tony, walk us through, because you have an amazing career in both music and film. Tell us first, what was the tipping point where you said, I can write songs, I can play music. That's a calling I want to pursue. And then the same question for film and video.
I'm glad you asked that. But let me say before I answer that, uh, thank goodness for people like you who have given people like me a place, not just Baroque, but other places. I will never forget, and I'm telling you this publicly for the first time, when you showed those movies at, what is it, what cafe? What is it?
Unurban.
I had an in there. and I met this great filmmaker, and being a filmmaker myself, and you set up a place where we could all meet and see a very interesting film. And the vibe was so good. This man gave me his film. It wasn't no like, well, you can buy it in the store and send it online, because the vibe was set up that you set up that was so great that's why that happened. If what is it? Build it and they will come. You built it, and some cool people came. So I want to thank you for things like that. I want to thank other people for things like that. But now, I also want to say, before I answer your question, I said, wow, look at this cool film event. But then I go to Baroque, and it's the most amazing psychedelic band with a light show like the Fillmore East, and these lights are going on, and I just knew I transformed back into the 70s, which I'm proud to say I was at. And all of a sudden, I'm on the mic, you're on the congas, and we went back in time, and I'm singing a Sly Stone song. What you don't know is since that time, I think it was 2020, me and Sly wrote a song called Let's Go Back.
Oh my God. How cool.
And I'm going to send you that song later, but we went back with you at Baroque first. And you can't go back without the light show and the dances and the psychedelic sound. That's not, unless you have that, you can't go back. So some of us have tried to go back, but you really set up a situation where we could go back. So I thank you for that. I'm glad to do it publicly. I thank you for what you're doing now. I thank you for all your newspaper articles. You are a special person, and people need to know that. Now let me answer your question.
Thank you so much.
I started out at 13 with a mother who sacrificed, and this is in all the little newspapers. I was in the Daily News. I was in the New York Times. I was in every paper. I was this kid whose factory worker mother said, I'm going to give him everything I could, even if I'm working in a factory. And that's going to propel him to, once again, be unlimited. Don't say, well, hey, because we live in Harlem or we live in the South Bronx, we can't do stuff. By her showing that love, there's no way a factory worker could buy you anything expensive, but they can give you things via love to show you, hey, here's a camera. Let's do something with it. Or I'm messing up a little bit. My speech is stumbling. I might be getting emotional thinking about this, but the Daily News said, filmmaker at 13, now big career. Well, why did they say that? Because at 13, this factory lady said, here's a movie camera. Try it. Yes, it came from a pawn shop. All the first things came from a pawn shop, and I'm proud to say it. But I took that camera, in answer to your first question, and I started filming my neighbors, and my first film was on the Vietnam War. And because of that, and because of appreciating the sacrifice, I wanted to do well. And next thing you know, I had won. That was 13. I had won an award for being one of the top filmmakers in New York by doing a film on cockroaches. And that film was bought by the whole New York public school system and also the public library. And it all started, why? Because a factory worker decided to show love
Yeah.
Not material love, because that's a pawn shop camera, but love to her son. And that's how I started film, in answer to your question. And then it just one grant after another. Uh, Getting back to being unlimited. Who does a film about roaches? But if you don't follow the status quo, you might do something different, because you were already taught, you know, hey, don't be limited. Do
Yeah.
a film about roaches. And so I did. Then I said, hey, I want to not just do one thing. I want to do the music for my own film. Charlie Chaplin, what's the life photographer who did his own music? Gordon
Gordon
Parks.
Parks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, oh, I could do my own music. So I picked up a guitar, played out a tune for a long time before I got it right. And then I said, music. I mean, my films need music. So that's how I got into music before I just said, okay, let's separate them. So that's the long-winded answer to how I started both. But from the time I did my first film, I played the music on it. And then I did one of my last films, my feature film, had 19 original songs. So I've always done the music on my own films. So that was part of the connection. Sorry for the long-winded
No,
answer.
that's totally fine, Tony. You're flushing it out beautifully. That's what I'm after. So, a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing a song or making a film?
Okay, in my case, and I totally understand that you should do something so creative that let the audience figure it out. Also, don't feel like you have to express yourself the way they want you to. You don't have to be linear if that's not what you want to do. So I totally understand not following the way Hollywood does it or whatever. But I also understand, like I said, why can't we do both? I also understand when you say, hey, I'm making this film for this reason. And in my case, though I've done a few avant-garde films, most of the films I made was for a reason. And I always told people I never wanted to be a Hollywood filmmaker. I just wanted to uplift people. So
Yeah.
therefore, my films, and I respect all the other people. I even enjoy the avant-garde, way out there films, but my films have my purpose. I should be able to have a purpose and respect someone's different purpose, which is what I did. But just to give you a little insight, I saw Godard's Weekend in 1969, and then I saw his Sympathy for the Devil with the Rolling Stones. I hope you've seen those two Godard movies,
Yeah.
and that changed my life, and that taught me that yes, I could entertain, I could have some music in it, but Godard was always saying something in those early films that he made. And I wanted to be like that. So the long answer is I have an intention for every film I'm doing, but the intention probably was the same from the beginning. I'm making this, even though it's a different subject, different genre, to uplift people.
Yeah.
That's why I make films, to uplift people. That's me.
That is beautiful. But Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your audience when you're making the film specifically? Because it's to uplift them, but how much are you thinking about them?
Right, good point. Okay, so being black, most of my films were, hey, my people were going through. I made a movie on the Black Panthers where I live with them. That answers a big part of your question.
Yeah.
Here I am living with them. They could have broken any day and shot us, which part of my movie, shows. That same mother gets shot in the back in my movie, and I hope people see it. UCLA recently archived all my early films, so they're online. You can see them on YouTube. All you got to do is put in UCLA Tony Chauncey, they'll come up. But in that Panther movie, she got shot in the back. That was a scene, and how I did it is amazing. I put a firecracker in her back. But that gets back to your question. I'm answering your question by saying, yes, I wanted people to know what the Black Panthers went through. So my purpose of doing this film was, look, the media may be portraying us as crazy people, but we have more than just being crazy. And so let me show you, and maybe from my film, you will be able to say, okay, oh, I saw his film. It's not what, the media is depicting these people are. They're a little different. I also wanted in that film, that particular film, to let Black people know, like I said, I made most of my films for them. We're divided. We're fighting each other. King and Malcolm had different points of views. I wanted to expose that too and put in a message like, hey, now that you see it, hopefully you guys will change it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did very well, Tony. You're answering all my questions well. They're just prompts to get you to talk, and you're really fleshing out the big picture. I appreciate that. You're a comprehensivist. And so McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness or human sensorium. So knife and fork extends our teeth. The shutter in a camera might extend, is an extension of our eyelid. Even non-tangible, say, religion or philosophy might be an extension of consciousness. What does the moving image camera extend for you, whether it's video or film? What humanness does the camera extend?
It extends exposing things that we need to work on as human beings.
Yeah.
First step before change is to acknowledge it, is to show what the problem is. That's the first step before change. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have people who are trying to take these books out of our history, trying to eliminate that it ever was slavery. So therefore, you don't acknowledge it. Well, if you don't acknowledge it, you can't successfully change it. You have to acknowledge it first. So that's what I was doing. Look, we have a problem here. Some of us artists don't even have the answer. But getting back to what I'm saying, at least we're acknowledging it. We're not sweeping it under the rug. In this day and age, we still live in a society where so many people are sweeping things under the rug. Yeah. And yes, I understand why it's painful. Yes, I understand why. Let's just talk about happy things. Well, let me say it again. We can do both. We can do both.
You got to. We can. You got to do both. You really got to. So I talked to Michael Apted 40 years ago. I asked him, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? And most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922 in France, but it really flourished in the 80s with MTV to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. Well, Michael Apted told me because we've learned to take in information faster. So I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
You said it. I can't say it better. We are brainwashed to believe we can, and that's the way the society is going. And of course, according to people, I wish I could quote names like you, the society is going to robots. So yes, we don't need to take things slowly and really enjoy them and feel them. We don't need to do that because robots won't be doing that. So since we're moving toward robots, that's why it's fast, quick. You don't have to spend time. You don't have to text. Oh, Just say yes. Just say bye. You want a conversation? That's too slow. Yes. Whoa. Back in the day when people were on the farms, families were close. They were more loving because they did things not flippant. We're in a flippant society. Oh, let's get it over. Let's move to the next thing. But history tells us we're moving to robots and we're acting. And until some people say, wait a minute, I don't want to be a robot that fast. I know it's inevitable, but not that fast. They're going to keep speeding this stuff up. So you're right. He was right. We don't need this quick. Now, in some instances, it does help. Yeah. In some instances, it does help to be quick.
Yeah.
But overall, no. Try not cooking your food the length of time it needs to be cooked and do that quick. And then I'll watch you choke.
Yeah, that's true. Slow food, slow cinema. So the real hidden question, though, Tony, is it literally possible for humans to multitask?
I think it is. I know I do it all the time. But now the question after that, at the expense of what quality? Yeah. Yes, you're multitasking. That's great. But at what expense? Could that song been better if you did retakes and got it fixed and took your time with it? Or maybe that song is not as good as it is because, I got to go to the next one. I got to do this. The jack of all trades, master of none thing is a good question that we all have to ask ourselves. Is it better to have 1,500 videos? As I have, that's a plug. I have 1,500 videos. Is it better, or is it better to have a few really great ones? Yeah. Well, I kind of answered my own question, or maybe that's how I do it. Yeah. I want other people to do it the way that makes them comfortable. Why does anyone do what they do? Gets back to that sociology and culture. I do it the way I do it because of what I was exposed to. Someone may take 5 years to make one good movie because they were exposed to that's the way to do it. None of us is right or wrong. We're doing what we have been exposed to, and we're doing what at the time makes us happy. That makes us happy what we're doing, but hopefully we're open enough to say, maybe I don't want to do it this way anymore, and I can still be happy by trying it that way.
Yeah, it's really good. You evoked what Nadia Boulanger, the great French music teacher who taught Quincy Jones, said, your music can never be more or less than you are as a human being.
Wow, that's heavy. That's heavy.
What's the function of music?
The function of music is a soothing thing. It's a thing that allows you to have different emotions. And one album, say, you could want to get up and shake your booty, but you could also want to cry because it touched you. You could also want to reflect back because the song made you remember something you was doing. So music has a way of evoking so many different emotions that's why it's probably lasted as long as it has. And I choose music because it does all that for me. It makes me cry, it makes me laugh, it makes me want to move, it makes me want to uplift. And thank goodness for all the different genres of music that do that. I really like classical music as a funk master because it soothes me. It relaxes me. It allows me to think. Sometimes you don't want to hear words. Sometimes you just want to relax. And so thank goodness that music has so many different categories, and I love them all. I heard a quote I want to say real quick. Willie Nelson said it on TV the other day when he got his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award. He said, when me and Ray Charles used to get together, we never said, are we going to do a country song? Are we going to do an R&B song? Are we going to do it? We just played.
Yeah.
And whatever came out, came out.
Yeah.
That's one of the wonderful, beautiful things about music.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny when you said that because you anticipated this. My friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So you learn how to do it, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste?
One acquires taste once again by being open and saying, let me try this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like food. Let me
Yeah.
try this. I didn't like that. Oh, so let me try that. Oh, wait a minute. I like that. Oh, let me try that. I'll go back to the other thing. So taste is required by exposure in answer to your question. Exposure to different foods, different musics, different people, different societies. Exposure to all that gives you taste. And taste is something that's personal. No one should knock someone else for what their particular taste is. Just enjoy your taste and be willing to share it. And if it's good, people will like it. Anything that's good, you don't have to force on people. They will say, oh, I like that. And they have a right to say, I don't like that. It's all great.
And you know how to perform. Leonard Cohen said, the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process?
Risk plays in my creative process to not be a follower. I appreciate the people who got me to where I am. And if I really appreciate them, then I need to take the next generation somewhere. I can't do that by not risking trying something different. I can't do that by following the status quo. I got to thank my predecessors by saying, wow, they did this and they did that. Now let me take what they did to the next level. I'm not doing this to be commercially successful. I'm doing this once again to uplift mankind. So yeah, let's play this. Let's put a little punk in my funk. I like that. Let's put a little punk in my funk because maybe that's going to be the new genre where people are taking it. But I won't know because the people are going to say, "What are you doing?" Look what happened to Bob Dylan when he put a little electric in his folk. But he took the risk to do it. And like Bob Dylan, most of the risk takers are trendsetters, are innovators, and we need them.
Yeah, beautiful, Tony. In fact, the jazz writer Ben Ratliff says, I mean sound as it's long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note. Like Miles, he said in 2 words, fragile and pointed. Coltrane, slightly undercooked and urgent. If a music writer that you respected was going to summarize Tony's sound in 2 words or just a couple words, what 2 words would you go, they got it, they got me?
That's a good one. It would be quantity. I am the type that puts out a lot of stuff. Yeah. And I'm not the type that's going to perfect the stuff. Yeah. But one reason I do that is because if you got 10 songs, you won't reach as many people as you got 1,000 songs. Yeah. Everybody's not going to like all your songs, but you surely are going to get to more people to form an opinion on your songs. Yeah. So I have to plug my 1,000 songs recorded. I can't tell you about the ones that didn't get recorded. And people told me, but you know, why you gotta put so many out? And I say to them, if you heard a lyric that touched you, does it matter if it was done in the house in 10 minutes or in an expensive studio in 10 hours? Exactly. What happened? Well, the words touch me.
Yeah.
And do you care how many hours it took for those words to touch you? No, they will say. So my point once again is some people, oh, it got to be perfected. I got to spend all this money. I got to get it right to say what they want to say. And then there's people like me that say, I want to say what I want to say in a studio, out of studio, around the corner, whistling in a bus. And as I'm plugging again, as my last video shows on New Year's Eve, I went to the mic. I'm not a singer, and I created a New Year's Eve song that I think is one of my better songs. Why? It took 5 minutes, less than 5, to run to a mic and do it. But if other people feel that way, and so far I'm getting a good response from my New Year's Eve song, then wow, nobody's gonna say, "Oh man, it took them so quick to do that." No. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, you did, Tony. That was beautiful. What was the motive of the cave artist? Your guess or your hunch?
Ah, that's a good one. Let me think as I wipe away my eyes. So repeat the question one more time because I'm not sure I got it.
What was the motive of the cave artist?
Oh, you mean the person who drew art in the caves that they discovered later on?
Yep.
I would think, in addition to having a knack to be creative, that they wanted to let people know they were here.
Yeah.
I would think that they said one day people are going to discover these drawings and know something about our society, which is no different from what I'm doing. I always tell people, and I'm glad you're giving me the opportunity to say this, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm so special, but I said Malcolm X, Van Gogh, and so many other people were not discovered until they were gone.
Yeah.
I, with my 1,500 videos and 1,000 songs, last plug of the evening, will not be appreciated until later on. That's getting back to your cave thing. Yeah. Later on, many years from now, somebody's going to say, wow, this guy did 1,000 songs and 1,500 videos. How come nobody talked about him? Why are they talking about him now? Well, I was different. Doesn't mean I was great. Doesn't mean I was doing the right thing. Yeah. But I was different. And so was Malcolm, and so was Van Gogh, and we could name many other people. Sometimes difference does not get appreciated till later, but you still do it just like that caveman did it, because you say, hey, they don't appreciate this now, and it's fine. But future generations, said the caveman, will appreciate this. I know I went off track a little bit, but
no, you didn't go off track, Tony. It's great, and you anticipated the next 3 or 4 questions. Next is, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Oh, conviction is way more important, but you have to know when to compromise. There's a time to compromise, but conviction is number one. Compromise is number 2.
And in your accomplishments, how do you rate these 3 elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Oh, great question. I will never say skill because I'm a product of what I was exposed to. I am what I was exposed to. That doesn't mean I'm great. Luck is very important, being at the right place at the right time. Yes, that's important. You could know a million, what is it? You could walk through 1,000,000 doors, but not have the right key.
Yeah.
Ambition is so important because I tell people, don't do this art form to be successful. Do it because this is all you see yourself doing. Yeah. You wake up doing it, you dream doing it, and whether success or money comes with it, it doesn't matter. This is what makes you happy. This is what makes you who you are. So as far as an order, I can't give you, but as far as my response to it, I hope people appreciate what I said, because once again, I repeat it. Don't be in this business to be great. Be in this business because it's the only thing you see yourself doing.
Yeah, no, beautiful. T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Uplifting, helping people, making people laugh, making people dance, making people just feel good. And we have enough things in this world that will make you feel the opposite. So my job is to make you feel positive, because negativity is everywhere. So because I don't know if I'm answering again, I got to stop saying that, but what comes out of me is something that's going to make you feel good. But guess what? It's going to make me feel good if you never even see it. I'm
That's
going to feel good. It starts with making myself feel good. I
beautiful.
play my own songs to death because they make me feel good. If nobody hears them, who cares?
Yeah.
They hear them like they saw the caveman's art.
Yeah. Beautiful. So two of my film heroes have a mantra. George Manupelli says, ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says, there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, music making more self-expression, or more your vehicle for whatever cultures, technologies, and environments are dominant?
I think it's what comes through me from what I was exposed to. Once again, I think as I'm exposed to different things, that comes out. That's how I went from R&B to rock. And one of my last bands was punk. Why? Because I met some people who told me, hey, there's some good things about this punk stuff. It's fast. It lets you hit a chord that's the wrong chord. So it's not all bad. But let me say this. 1974, in New York, they gave out $500,000 to great artists.
Yeah.
And I was the youngest filmmaker to get that money. And next to me was Jonas Mekas.
Oh my God. What a great band. What a great story. So can art making be egoless?
Art making can be egoless, but it's rare.
Yeah.
It's very rare. We live in this, oh, you got to be successful society. Oh, you got to be better. I love Woody Allen, one of my favorite filmmakers, because he doesn't go to those awards because he says there's no such thing as one is better than the other.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. We're all making art. We're all trying to do what we do. So this thing about making you better will bring in your ego. Oh, I got to be the best. Oh, I am the best. That's an ego problem.
Yeah.
Not that I'm just sharing. I'm sharing with one, or I'm sharing with thousands, but I'm sharing.
It's beautiful. Tony, you're so inspiring, and I'm loving what you're saying. Is perception reality?
Is perception reality? Well, I will answer that because I don't totally understand what you mean by that, but let me answer it this way, and then if you want to clarify, we can. I like the fact that I could say this. One of my great statements that I tell people, and it's probably not related to your questions, we could go back to it, is there's your opinion, my opinion, and then there's the fact.
Yeah.
And I look at reality as being the fact, perception as being their opinion and my opinion.
Yeah.
But then there's the reality. And reality is something that we all agree on, because one culture's reality might be different from another culture's reality.
Yeah. No, that was good. In fact, in the years you've been creating, Tony, tell me one major element that stayed the same and one major element that's changed?
Good question. What's changed is a need to have to constantly create, because there should come a time for all creators, especially if they were the type that they were trying to uplift people, should come a time where they just sit back and look at what they have done. Because the danger is you're so busy creating, you're so ambitious that you just keep going. I tell people the same thing Mick Jagger told people. Everyone says, whoa, what are all the people you met? You should write a book. You should write a book. You met so many people, you know so many. I said, Mick Jagger said the same thing. I'm too busy living. I'm still busy going on. I don't have time to write a book. I'm living. Having said that, there should come a time where you say, you know what? I may not write that book, but let me stop and look at what I've accomplished. Look at what I've done. Let me take time to not be so ambitious that I missed out on things. A lot of great people will admit that they lost their family because they were so good at what they did and so ambitious, but they forgot a simple thing like, saying hello to members of their family and spending time with them.
Yeah, T.S. Eliot said that. He said they had the experience but missed the meaning. You want to cherish that meaning, that reflect. So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
A weakness that I turned into a strength. Okay, that's a good question. Let me think quickly. I was the type of person who didn't. I was moving so fast that I did not take time to hear out other things, other people. I'm sorry, I don't have time to hear you because I'm busy. I think that was a weakness of mine. I think what I turned into a strength was finding out how important it was to not be so busy and to slow down and say, okay, yes, let me hear what you're saying. I'm slowing down enough. And you can't fault the person who's busy. I mean, he's trying to accomplish something. But you can tell him, hey, why don't you learn to turn that around, slow down, because it might give you something better. And I use something better in response to it might give you a strength that you didn't have by missing out on it because you were so busy. So maybe slowing down will become something that you like. And I translate that to being a strength in your life. So that's by slowing down, that's how I turn that into a strength. Oh, okay. I see things I didn't see before because I was just moving too fast.
Yeah. Fill in the blank, Tony. Anger can be a productive emotion when?
Anger can be a productive emotion when, let's see, when it's leading to a overall better ending. It's temporarily anger, but that anger long range leads to something that's better. It's like that tooth being pulled is painful, but you're going to be glad in the long run that tooth is gone.
What is the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Women seem to be, and we know it's not all cases, there's always exceptions. Women seem to be more emotional, thoughtful. It has to be that way. That's their nature as the person who brings a human into the world. They have to be more that way. Men have to be, we don't have time, we just got to get the job done.
Yeah.
And they have to be that way because the person who brought that human into the world is depending on them to be that way.
Yeah.
If we could both understand what are the reason why we are, I think we would be better to each other. I understand why you're more emotional than me. You hopefully understand why I got to go to work. I don't have time to explain this. If we could understand our positions, not just a man and a woman, but as a culture and a different culture, as a ethnic group and a different, just understand why we're different. Nobody's right or wrong. We're different for reasons. So back to your original question, a man and a woman, they have different characteristics for reasons. But we only have a problem when we don't accept that and understand, oh, I understand why you don't want to see the baby as often as me. And hopefully you understand why I don't want to work as hard as you.
Yeah. And there's a line that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into, you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So it's basically, what's your thoughts on this line? You create what you resist. And I'm not saying you, but one creates what one resists. What's your thoughts on that line?
I've heard that so many times when they say, oh, you didn't like your father, but you grew up just like him. Why that happens, unfortunately, is something I don't think I really could answer. I've been wondering, I would, and I know it's supposed to be you interviewing me, but I would like to know, since I haven't put too much thought into that, what's your feelings on that?
Oh, well, I think it works both ways. It's like how you are a comprehensivist, that people do create what they resist because it gives them, like Bo Zappa and Buñuel were raised Roman Catholic. So it was so much a part of them that they reacted against it and tried to feel that something again. But it is embracing that sort of contradictory thing that Louis Buñuel says, thank God I'm an atheist. It's like, thank God that I had God in my life so that I could say I don't believe in God. So it's funny. I'm just curious, how do you find peace of mind?
I recently asked a friend, I said, what is your happy place? And I told that friend, I haven't used those words in decades, happy place. And so then I said, I'm glad I brought that up because I think my happy place, which is, peace of mind, is something that people think I might be crazy in. I actually put up a video every day. I may even think I'm crazy, or more to it than that. But I get so happy doing that. And I've mentioned in this nice, great interview why I get so happy doing it. Probably because I feel, even though it's video number 1,000, this might be the one that uplifts somebody new. This might be the one that makes the new person laugh. This might be the one that makes a person have a conversation. Even if the conversation is, oh no, that Tony's sending me another video.
No, it's like, Tony, it's like breathing. You're just taking in breaths, and that's what we're doing together. We're sharing breathing. They asked Duchamp, what do you do at a cocktail party? He goes, I'm a breather. So you're like breathing, and he was saying breath, but you're like breathing videos like they're breaths.
Exactly. And even that person who says, oh, he's sending me another video, we're communicating. If I didn't send him another video, he probably wouldn't have talked to me that day, that week, or whatever. But that bad video opened up the door to even, why did you send me this? And why did you send me this could open up the day, okay, but by the way, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
It might have started with something, but it's still communication. And we've talked about it today. Communication is something so needed, especially in the times we living in now.
Yeah. Well, we got about 10 or 15 minutes. It's been truly enlightening. And what you just said remind me of, I do that with flyers. I take pieces of paper and print my stuff and hand it to people all the time. And they go, can I take a picture of it? I goes, no, put it in your pocket, read it later. But I used to put on my, give out my flyers on Venice Boardwalk, and I would say two people as I gave them the flyer, whatever you do, don't read it. And
Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one.
And one time a guy said back to me, he said, do you have anything I could read? That was pre-cell phones. Okay.
You know what's interesting, and I'm not blowing either one of our horns. I've known you for a while, and as I said earlier in this interview, you have done things in film and music in Venice that I don't know nobody else doing these kind of things. Oh. So I think I have done, like I said, a collection of stuff that I know nobody has that kind of collection. And for all these people who say, oh, what is this flyer? Or, oh, it's in a, they really don't know what they're missing. And I'll say the same thing to you, and I'm getting a little emotional now, which I don't mind.
Yeah.
One day they're gonna say, who was that guy who did all this stuff at Baroque? Because nobody's doing it now. And who was that guy who had so many things going on? Did you know that he does this thing at that Super 8 thing in off Echo Park? And did you know he does this? Do you know? And here's what they're gonna say. Is anybody else doing that? What these two guys did? And then they're gonna say, no, but we thought they were doing too much. And then they're going to say, now we see they weren't doing too much. Nobody was like them. So now we appreciate them. and hopefully both of us know that's going to happen, but that's not why we're doing it. We're not doing it for anybody to say, oh, okay, thank you. We're doing it because this is who we are. This is who we are.
And it's back to the song you're going to write, or the t-shirt you're going to make. Fun. We're doing it because it's fun, and fun is the key. Funky.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, Tony, here's 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Who started it all was the creator.
2, are we going to make it?
We are going to make it, but not in the form that we are presently.
3, where do we put it?
We put it where it makes us happy if it's consensual.
Nice. 4, who's cleaning it up?
Who's cleaning it up, unfortunately, are the people who come behind us. That's why it's nice that we left something for them to think about as they clean it up.
That's good. The Gleaners and I in the second line in New Orleans. That's beautiful. And 5, is it serious?
It is not serious. When you think of how long this planet has been around, nothing we do is serious, but that doesn't mean it's not worthy.
Beautiful. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I would say there's going to be some ups and downs, but enjoy the ride, because the ride will be over sooner than you think.
That's it. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Definitely over. And if there's any people left doing it under, I want to talk to them.
I'm gonna send you a list, because 95% say over, but there are some people who insist under is the right way. Tony, if a publisher was to release your autobiography, off the top of your head, what would the title be?
1,000 songs and 1,500 videos.
Oh, that is good.
Speaks for itself. Speaks for itself.
Well, they want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
The smell would be vanilla.
Nice. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Great question. I would want it to be displayed in Harlem, and it would be made of chocolate.
Oh my God. Is that milk or dark?
Definitely dark.
Yeah. Hello. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had was a trip to, say, China. And that's something that I never want because I love where I am.
Beautiful. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I would say shit happens.
That is a great answer. What is the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
What I see developing today that inspires me is that things have got to go better because I believe in the United States of America, and things have always gotten dark as they are, but they've always gotten better. And I believe that's going to continue.
Utah Phillips is a labor activist and folk singer. He said that anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
You definitely have to make rules for yourself, but you also have to respect the reasons why the other rules, even the ones you want to break, were set up in the first place. In order to do your own rule, you should know why the first rule was even put out, whether you liked it or not.
Yeah, because, you know, the word freedom etymologically means giving oneself one's own laws. What does freedom mean to you now?
I'm glad you asked that, because on this abortion debate, most of us liberals say, oh, you know, they're treating the women so bad, they want to control their bodies, and they should have a right to do what they want with their bodies. If they want to abort the baby right now, why should government get in it? But let me say this. If everyone said, oh, well, I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want government to get in it. So suppose that person says, well, what I want to do is go around and shooting people. Our government shouldn't get in it. I want to go around sniffing glue and fall on the street. Government, no. There's times, ladies, and I'm on your side, that government does have to say, hey, we got to make some things for the whole country. I just think government should make it open to discussion, not act like, you know, the kings and queens and monarchies of the past. But no, there is a time for government to say, you know, yes, a baby is still a baby at, 12 weeks, and you shouldn't do that. But take everything into consideration. So that's a recent thing that I'm glad you gave me time to express, how there is a time that government does have to say, this is the rule of the land for the betterment of the people.
Yeah. What's a question that remains unresolved for you, Tony?
Oh, a question that remains unresolved for me, and I'm not too worried about it at all, is where am I going from here? When you're not religious, other people, I wish I was like the Christians, they got heaven. I wish I was like the Muslims, they got 40 prostitutes. But I don't know what I got coming, but I'm also not worried about it.
Yeah. It reminds me of the joke. The guy goes to heaven after he dies, and St. Pete's there at the gates, and he's peeking in, and he goes, "Oh, you got Zoom interviews online in heaven?" And St. Pete goes, "That's all we got."
That's all.
So, Tony, how has making films and music shaped your behavior?
Making films and music, first of all, I feel so blessed to be able to do it. Both fields cost a little money to do for the most part, not the way I do it. Both fields require participation of people who like you. You can't do either one unless you're a people person, especially if you ain't paying them. So both fields brings together unique characters who become your friends.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that I was given the opportunity to like these fields because it's brought me so much happiness.
Totally agree with you. It's amazing. So, Thornton Wilder said that art is confession. Art is the secret told, but art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not implying that you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Um, Art is something that sometimes I want to hide because I believe in telling the truth. And sometimes the truth can be painful. And that's where I'm always going with it. But I'm responding to the hide part. What was the part before the hide?
Well, it's sort of interesting what Thornton's saying. He's saying art is confession, art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time.
Yeah, I mentioned the hide it part, why I feel sometimes you want to hide it, but the tell it part, and when it comes to art, is something that I think you're doing for a reason. Sometimes you're doing it to tell it part because you might be alone. You might feel like, hey, I'm saying this, it's about me, but I want some feedback back.
Yeah.
I want some communication. I want a response.
Yeah.
And so that's the tell it part. Sometimes that response may not be something, it may be something you really said, oh, I wish I would have hit that.
Yeah, it's sharing, finding commonality to share, whether you agree or not. It's the commonality. It's back to your word communication. Tony, what gives you the most optimism?
What gives me the most optimism is what I said earlier. I have studied history, and human beings, especially Americans who have a lot of freedom and should be so blessed that they're not in a country where they say, you can't drive, you can't do this, you got to wear a Buddha, whatever. We live in a country that gives you some basic freedoms with its problems. We ain't saying they don't have problems, but this country has always risen to the occasion, and I think it will continue. I'm sorry I won't be there for some of the things, but I'm happy for those ancestors who made it so that I could be in the position that I was in, because they gave me something, and I believe the next generation will get something too. And as bleak as it is, we're in one of our saddest moments. I do have faith, and things are going to get better before the robots come, and they're coming.
Yeah, it's funny, Tony, because what you said is what most people say. What gives you the most optimism is the youth and the hope for, a better world. And the first question I asked you was, what is the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. What gives you the most optimism? And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And like I said, whether they recognize us 50 years from now, we did it. We did it. We have similar interests, and we have similar sharing abilities with people. I know you. It's not a put on. I'm not buttering you up. You are a people person, a giving person, a sharing person. And I think I am too. And we don't have to get our rewards now. 50 years from now, they're going to be talking about us.
And I assure you, Tony, I feel the same. You share with people, and I've seen you bring smiles on so many faces. In fact, it's one of my favorite moments in my film, The Brother's Side of the Wake, to see you pop in and say something. But, you know, McLuhan has a great line that I think applies as we close out here is communication of the new is a miracle, but it's not impossible. And really, that's what you've done with me for this last hour and a half is you communicated a lot of newness to me. And it's like we renew that faith in human beings. So thank you so much, Tony. Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.